Welcome to the Rabia and Sana show. We're two Desi girls reinventing cultural norms with love to make difficult conversations easier to help you take courageous steps faster.
Whether you feel like a misfit now or have been breaking the standards, this podcast is for you, for the adults, the young. Come as you be and become your authentic self as you desire. Let's go reinvent some cultural norms together.
Hello everyone, I am Rabia Paracha. I have been a rebel without a cause for most of my life until I discovered my purpose to empower women to empower themselves. And that led me down a rabbit hole to become a life coach from CTI Coactive Coaching. And today I'm a mind and life power coach who helps people break free of their limiting cultural beliefs to find the life they love and the love of their life.
Hello everyone, I am Sana. I am from New Jersey, a Pakistani American. Professionally, I work in the clinical research field. And personally, I have always had this purpose of empowering women of South Asian culture to be able to live the life that they want to live and be true to themselves instead of what the culture expects them to be. And so here I am pursuing that purpose, and I am also studying to become a life coach. Let's get started.
Hello, amazing souls. Welcome to another episode of the Rabia and Sana show, the podcast where we reinvent cultural norms to elevate your mental, emotional, and relationship well-being. I'm Rabia Paracha.
And I'm Sana Shah. Today, we are so thrilled to have Shakeb Zuber with us. Shakeb is a business development manager in a specialized construction company. But beyond that, he's a thought leader in redefining identity, challenging women's empowerment to navigating different industries. His journey is one of growth and transformation. Wow. Shakeb, welcome and thank you for joining our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation. Really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Excellent. And we're excited as much as you are as well. So Shakeb, you've had this incredible journey. What motivated you to challenge societal expectations?
Yeah, to begin with, since the very childhood, I was a very curious and inquisitive fellow. And I was an outcast, mainly because I was overshadowed by my sister's achievement. I think it worked for me because, I was always sidelined. I was always outcasted. So I used to think a lot. And I come from a very humble background, from a very small town in India. That's towards the eastern part of India, known as Dhanbad. It's in Jharkhand. It's one of the underdeveloped state in India. So being born there, and then, you get access to the internet when you're a teenager, and then you connect to the people who are like-minded. So you start thinking, you start giving it a picture. So the journey started when I was an atheist, but that's very interesting because I saw that there is something which I would say there is one religious belief that we have, religious values that we hold, and then there are cultural values that society kind of practices, and there was a gap between them. So before I decide to choose either of the one, I need to stay away from it. So that is why my journey as a teenager, I was an atheist, I was a thinker. And then, from there on, it got to a point where I kind of, began reading about people and personality and trying to develop myself. And eventually I became a religious fellow as I am right now. But the journey, I think, it started because I sensed there's something wrong with our society. There's something which is not the truth. And I needed to find the reality. So, yeah,
Wow.
I can say that.
That's an incredible journey. So tell us more about that, Shakeb. What was there like a specific instance or a specific turning point? Something specifically happened when you were growing up that made you really start looking into this and make the switch?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll tell you one thing. I was very close with my sister. We were, in a same school. We were in the same class, and she had a lot of aspirations. She was a very, you can say, a talented student. She wanted to do so many things, and there is a kind of like a cultural notion that at a certain age a woman should get married and she should not pursue her dream and everything. And while she was only 21 years old, she was, she was made to marry at that age where she could have joined the college and she could have pursued her career. And at that time, it stuck into me that this is not right. That incident, that particular incident, made me feel guilty that I could not do anything. What is this? Because in an outside world, I see that people choose their dream, their aspiration. There was a Western influence as well, wherein you say that we have liberty and we can do whatever we want. Here is my sister who wanted to do so many things, but she was pressurized to a point that she had to give in, and she got married. So I think that was the one incident that changed everything. That kind of made me feel, that kind of made me go into a journey of quest. I was just a teenager, and I was trying to find out that what is the problem in my society, and that is where trying to reinvent the cultural norm, the real journey actually began with that one particular incident.
Mm. That's so amazing that as a male, as a brother, you identified through your sister's experience that something's not right. And so that's really important. And standing up to these things, it takes a lot of courage, right? To go against the ingrained beliefs. And so, what were your specific challenges? Like, one was to have that courage to say it, but what were some specific challenges that you faced along the way as you're, spearing this notion that some things needs to shift? Can you share some of that?
Absolutely. I mean, uh, in this podcast, I mean, people will get to know that eventually I became a campaigner in the campaign for violence against women and stop acid attacks. But the journey started from there. This incident that I was talking about. So I moved forward, and when I joined university, I was engaged in a lot of conversation. I was few student, few among the male student who chose gender studies as one of the specialization while I was doing my bachelor's, because I wanted to understand why there is a difference in Indian society. What is the gap? I wanted to understand those things, and I started having conversation with the people who belong from my community. And I had a lot of friends, women friends. They came up to me and they talked about their aspiration. And I thought, okay, in urban areas, when I moved to college and I went to the urban areas, I was like, okay, these women, they are just doing so great. They are pursuing the challenge. But then I got to realize that, okay, even they are facing a lot of trouble. I mean, discrimination, gender parity, and all those kind of what do you call kind of like a mental harassment as well, to a point. So in each sphere of my life, I saw while I was pursuing graduation, then post graduation, then when I was doing my job, I saw that, okay, there is a kind of a thing that we see in a society, in an urban space as well as in a rural society, that women universally is having a trouble. Not only in India, then we also talk about the world. And I'll give you one example when it comes to what women are facing in my country, and then I can relate to that hypocrisy or the difference I talked about in the religious belief and the cultural belief. While I was growing up, there used to be, commercial advertisement. There used to be a product which was televised in a commercial advertisement. The name of the product was Fair and Lovely. I don't know if you guys have heard about it.
Yeah, totally.
So
I know it.
yeah, so yeah, and there was like a specific ad that used to run where there is a woman who is very talented, who is a hardworking woman, but she's not getting certain kind of achievement, and then the friend of her will kind of gift her this fairness product, and then after 7 days or 14 days, she applies it, and after 14 days, if she's a cyclist, she's a commentator, different kind of sets of ad used to run. And after 14 days, because she now got fair, she has achieved those success. And that ad used to run for a decade and people used to buy it, right? The hypocrisy that I was mentioning about the difference between the religious and the cultural belief is that we come from a society where we are a, we are majority of the Hindu people and the Muslim people live. In the Hindu community, you have goddess Kali, you have the personality like Krishna. We're dark skinned people. You come from a land where 90% of the Indians are dark colored. You come from a place where in Islam, you have the idea that blacks and whites are equal. And yet, specifically what women are facing is that uh, they are judged, their identities based solely on how they appear, how they look, and the skin of their color. You read any matrimony, and the first demand that a guy would be having is a fair-skinned woman, and that is something which we see. I mean, in our country, in glamorous world as well, in Bollywood, you would find that successful actors are those who are fair-skinned. I mean, you will have actors, male actor who are dark in complexion. In South Indian industry or in North Indian industry, they are accepted, but a woman specifically have to be a fair skin. So those kind of observation I was having, and yeah, those kind of challenges I saw. It's deeply ingrained. You can't just simply change it. I mean, a woman who is studying in a school, and from a very tender age, her entire identity revolves around how she looks, right? And that is something, and the entire perception goes around that. Okay, you're a woman, you have entered your teenage, now it's time for you to get married and get settled, and a husband will take care of you. So it's so deeply rooted, deeply ingrained, that you can't change it in a day, and you can't change it through a conversation. You need to change the mentality of the society. And that's the challenge that, which you talked about, your specific question, that you cannot change a mentality of a society that has been running for thousands of years. How can you achieve it in a day? But yeah, we are getting somewhere. So yeah, that is the biggest challenge for me.
I want to add something to that because I played a role in that belief system that you're shifting, right? I can see myself looking back over time where Fair and Lovely that you brought up. So I'm here in Toronto. My mother would travel to where I'm from, Pakistan. And so when she would go back, she would bring me back. I used to be very dark. And, one of my friends, they saw my wedding picture and I was quite dark. And she asked me, had you seen each other before you got married? Like, because I felt that because I was darker, that I was ugly. Like, I had that belief ingrained in me. No one really told me, but it's these subliminal messages, these silent messaging that we're doing, what we see on TV and what like I'm Punjabi as well, and we have that gori chitti lambe baal, right? That's the idea of beauty. And you talk about objectification and also molding girls at a young age so that they then become, it's almost like their possession. So I just wanted to bring those things. I personally felt that way as well. And I had to shift this belief system, which takes, which has been there for thousands of years, like you're saying, to change that paradigm. It starts with me, and it starts with every woman for not buying into those beliefs before we can have men change that as well. Because we sometimes perpetuate, and I had this thought before this podcast, we perpetuate abuse and the problems by carrying on traditions and beliefs that we're accustomed to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is something which resonated, which is when I was working with the Stop Acid Attacks organization, and we had this entire community of women who have faced the repercussion of being attacked, by being attacked, as acid being thrown away from them. The first major hurdle that they faced by was by their own community, was by their own people. If your face is destroyed, who's going to accept you? You're as good as being dead. So that is something which they're facing, because now you're gone. The woman who you talk with, and they don't have the fair skin color. It's not that they're facing the problem with the male, the men, that the first hurdle is their own family members. Like you said, from a very tender age, mother becomes so concerned. My daughter is so dark skinned. Who will accept her? How she will get married? This is something which you see even today in a tier 2, tier 3 city in India, in the rural spaces that you're talking about. They're trying to get, to apply a lot of fairness cream. And that is why the fairness industry in India has skyrocketed. Even though, like I said, 90% of the Indians are not fair skinned. 90%, that's a huge number. Still, it's skyrocketed. The first hurdle that they face, I mean, if you talk to the woman, it's their own mother. They make them feel that you're lacking something if you're not looking a certain way. And I absolutely agree with you. It begins with yourself, that you have to fight against that kind of a belief, that kind of a cultural norm, that I ought to look a certain way to be acceptable in a society. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And it's really dumbfounding on how Rabia and I, grew up pretty much in the US and Canada, right? And we also see this issue and we also have faced it so much ourselves. Like this is so home. I can see it in my sisters, I can see it in myself growing up. And it's like you coming from India, we're from an underdeveloped city where we would think that it would be more prevalent, but it's really the same. I mean, we face the same thing. And then the other issue that you raised about women not having to really meet the aspirations that they want to meet in their career or what they want to be because marriage is first or marriage is the ultimate goal rather than other aspirations. And Rabia and I both also faced that when we both got married at quite a young age from the family pressure. So it's like, it always surprises me on how we think that being a little bit more modern or adopting some Western society traditions have evolved us, but the evolution has been a little bit slow. And so, that's the reason why we're here, where we're progressing the needle, moving the evolution along the way. So, Shakeb, my question is from a male perspective, it's really awesome that you realize this and you're, doing the great work that you're doing to bring awareness to this and helping the women. Coming from a male who is very logical and, smart and able to see the differences, what to you is a woman's beauty? And how do you think the woman's beauty is from a male's perspective, not to be tied with the identity?
For that, to learn this, what beauty actually is, I have to unlearn a lot of things. Because when I grew up, it automatically came into me that, okay, beauty is all about fair-skinned women, and you kind of get the idea of possession. So I kind of like, if I can bring my personal account here, like personal incident, like I was, I had a huge feeling for a woman who I thought I would marry. And later on, I realized that it was only the idea of possession. I wanted to possess her beauty. And that happened in a very early age, like I was in my early 20s. So I realized that, no, actually there is a natural sense of beauty. I feel it comes with a grace. I feel, I see beauty in struggle. The kind of woman that I have been attracted to or I have been with, I find struggle, a strength of a woman very attractive. I find a natural smile to be very attractive. I find innocence to be very attractive. And it was difficult to unlearn the initial idea of what the beauty is, because when you grow up, you're sitting with the boys, the idea of what a beautiful woman is, it's given to you, like, it should be fair, there should be certain kind of body type, it's more majorly like, pretty much objectified. And from there to realize what the real beauty is, to having this kind of idea of beauty, and being with them, eventually being with that kind of a woman, it was a long journey. And it took a lot of what you call pain, and to let go the idea of possession in my life, to finally reach to a point where I realized that.
And I want to go deeper into this because I'm really enjoying, we rarely get a chance to speak about these things. You know that, like what I'm hearing from you in your description of beauty, right, is that there's this superficial, that what you see visually, and then you're saying what you find attractive and beauty is the depth of a person, their resilience, their ability to be raw and real and vulnerable and genuine, and not camouflage it with a foundation, or, meaning when we do our makeup, we put on our foundation so that our skin looks perfectly even. So what I'm hearing is that it's that imperfection. It's that natural smile that you see, not the posed smile in a photograph, just for the sake of this example, that you find beauty. And I think that is so simple, but so difficult at the same time.
Absolutely. It's quite a realization, I tell you, like, because when I was in the organization for Stop Acid Attacks, why acid attack actually happens. Is it the acid that is the problem? No, acid is not the problem. Why are they trying to throw the acid? Because they think that everything about women lies in their beauty. And if I take away the beauty, then my revenge is done, right? I can destroy her identity. So from there, why entire identity revolves around in the face, where this idea is actually coming from. And so in my like understanding, and then trying to have a conversation with all the age groups. So one of the workshop that I did with the children, wherein I come up with this activity, what I do there is that uh, there are a group of children, right? And they're in the tender age, kids basically participating in that workshop. So the first picture I showed them was of a woman wearing a hijab. And the second picture I showed them was a woman who is, applying all the makeup and everything. I said to the student, okay, now you saw what is the difference, you guys can absolutely tell. But tell me, what is the similarity between the two? And there were a lot of comments like, what is the similarity? The students were saying this, that. There was this one smart kid who stood up and said that, their originality is not visible. One is hiding behind the veil and other is hiding behind the makeup. And I said, that's the bingo. That's the thing. We have two kind of society. Now, that is where the learning took me. We have the urban society, the Western society, you can say, and we have the rural society, a small town society. In both the society, you say that, okay, in the traditional sense, women are, objectified, and, uh, they are not progressing, and their identity is just, limited. But even in the urban spaces, now when women are looking for the empowerment, they have to put on a show. They have to be all glamorous to fit in. So then the kids realize, and we had this conversation that, okay, yes, that is the point we're talking about. We are never truly actually free. We have not achieved that. In any world we'll go, this will always be the core identity of ours. And we have really not got to a point where we actually have communicated to the world that we are more than this. We are more than what we look. I mean, when you look at the man and a woman, the first identity of a man is a mind. I mean, in Indian society specifically, when you talk about man, what do they do? What is your profession? And when you talk about a woman, how does she look like? In terms of marriage, when somebody asks for marriage, no matter how educated a woman is, the first thing is, does she look beautiful? How does she look? That's the first thing. And the rest of the thing follows. And yes, if she's less beautiful, then the other aspect is there for compensation. So that's the thing.
I want to add one more thing to that because I think there is a similarity in both how we perceive men and how we perceive women in your example. How much money does he make? That is a question. When parents are marrying their daughters, that's a question. And the similarity I think that we sometimes might overlook is both are objectification. You're not basing it based on who he is, what struggles he has, like you were describing beauty on the female side. How has he overcome his challenges? How hard has he worked to get to where he is? How ambitious he is. He started with nothing and made something for himself. That is what I have find attractive, and not how much he makes, not what university he went to, because what you're describing is the resume versus the human being who earned that resume, right? So I think there is that similarity of objectification. We just don't highlight it when it's for a man. And I think these issues that you're saying, for example, domestic violence. 1 in 5 women in North America, and I would love to hear the stats in India and Pakistan on this number as well. 1 in 5 women experience domestic violence. And I think this is an understated number. Whereas 1 in 10 men experience domestic violence. Also an understated number, I believe. The reason I'm bringing this up is this isn't just a gender issue. This happens in both genders, but more so to the female, the quote unquote, the weaker or the less powerful, economically powerful gender. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I do agree with it that, both men and women face the problem, but then we have to understand what's the cause behind it. See, if we say women are facing the issue, so are men facing the issue, it kind of dilutes the entire struggle that women are facing, because the men, it's mostly what you call it, the influence of economy or all the other aspect that comes into the picture, and like you say, salary and everything. It's kind of like you can still turn it around. You can still have the story from rags to riches, right? But when it comes to women, it's something which is deeply ingrained. Why you're facing the violence? I'll give you, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Based on my experience with stop acid attacks, I'll also give you a data. In India, every year, almost 1,500 women are facing an acid attack. So, can you believe that? That's an outstanding number. And I had a case where, I was a campaigner and I had different women from different part of the country we kind of accompanied. There's one interesting thing that happened, wherein each and every woman, they come from a different part of India, but they had a similar kind of a story where their so-called stalker or lover, they threw acid on them. And you know what's the same dialogue that each and every stalker of a man used in women from different part of the country? The same dialogue, same line while throwing the acid. They said that if you can't be mine, you can't be others. If you don't belong to me, you cannot belong to others, and they threw the acid. Imagine 5 or 6 stories with the same dialogue in different parts of the country. What does it say? They were basically trying to say that your entire identity is your look. And in my hand is a power that in just one blow, I can destroy your entire identity and nobody will accept you. And these men are right because the society really don't accept them. The moment they are like, the acid is thrown into them, she is of no use, she's of no worth. Nobody is going to marry her. She's not going to get a job. They say that even you can't compare both, but the Supreme Court came up with this statement that, it's even worse than being a rape survivor because rape survivor, they can be rehabilitated in a new place. But the acid attack survivor, because their face are destroyed, they cannot be rehabilitated. And the entire core identity of a woman is the look. And the attacker is actually winning in this case because he knows that, you know what, while I do it, while I throw the acid, society is not going to accept her. I know this. So I will win at the end of the day. And he is right because, they face a worse kind of a discrimination. So you do see that with men, the discrimination is, I mean, with the women, it's deeply ingrained. I mean, their discrimination is cultural. It is happening from thousands of years. And men, it's very limited. There is a discrimination, of course, but you have rags to riches story. You can still change the course, but with women, you can't change the course.
Yeah, I had no idea that the acid attacks in India were so common. That's really an alarming statistic to hear that. What is some of the work that you're doing? I know you're working on towards stopping the acid attacks, but where do you think we can make this change? Does it start from the men or women as well?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the mentality first of all. Like I said, at a very tender age when you're a teenager, from that time only the acid attacks, even though it is happening to like let's say 1,500 of the women per year, but the mechanism, we all are a part of that mechanism. All the women are part of the mechanism, and I'll tell you how. Because acid is not something that is there in the picture. If you replace acid, they will be attacked in some so other mechanism. I mean in a rural space, you have women being attacked by acid. In an urban space, you have women facing domestic violence. So where is this mentality coming from, right? And you take that down from a level where in a very tender age only, when women are growing up, you see that you have reached towards the puberty, and you see that there are girls who will look a certain way. They will be getting attention, they will be having a lot of, let's say, friends and peers, and the girl who doesn't look a certain way, they will be secluded. So it starts from there only. And in both the cases, a woman who is so-called beautiful and a woman who's not so-called beautiful, they both are discriminated because the woman who's not beautiful, at a very early age, it has been kind of, the message has been given to her that you lack certain things, and that kills the confidence, and that affects her throughout her life. But for a woman who is so beautiful, you're getting everything easy. And there is a phrase that you hear that pretty women are dumb. They're not dumb. Is that from a very early age, you're giving so much attention, you're giving it so easy to her that nobody's trying to understand her real identity. And that's why, you cannot grow intellectually. So it begins with this mentality that, a woman identity should be looked beyond the appearance, beyond the idea of the face or the appearance that we talk about.
I was just going to say about the self-worth that you mentioned, how it affects the woman's entire life. And it becomes the main foundation of how she makes the decisions and actions in the remaining of her life. I mean, I've seen women because they feel like they have, not the beauty standards, they would stay in unhappy marriages, even take physical abuse, mental abuse, any sort of that thing, because they're like, what else do I have out there? There's nothing. My worth is so low. So the impact of this is phenomenal. Like it affects the entire life of the remaining person. So I just wanted to highlight that part about how it has deep issues within the mental health of women.
And I like the point that you made, that it begins with that education piece. To shift that paradigm, to shift the thoughts, that education piece is so necessary. I remember some years back, Myra Khan came to New York and she was wearing some very revealing outfit, and there were a lot of squawkers and gawkers, gawking at her, and all these men were saying all these sorts of degrading comments, right? Degrading comments. And the whole conversation, I remember, was about how she should dress better, not about the gawkers who were, slandering her, who were, putting her down. And back to that point where you're saying that, if a woman is pretty, she's dumb. And if a woman is, not pretty, or in these superficial senses of beauty, or in their color of their skin, she's not attractive, or she's not worthy of love. Those are the messages that we're saying. She's not worthy of love. She's not worthy of getting attention. And that girl that, doesn't fit the mold, she then has the impact of not actually exercising her intelligence. What Sana is saying as well, exercising her intelligence and making something of herself, because her worth has been depleted based on what someone has told her and what a society has told her. So, in this word of education, if you could share some things that can create lasting impact, can create a healthy change in mindsets, what one piece or a few pieces maybe are important here could you say to our audience to change that, doing that unlearning, and to create a new way of looking at beauty?
One thing is by being a rebellion. And I'm not saying in a very crude sense that you have to be a rebellious person and go out in the street and protest. No, not like that. Rebellion in a sense, you need to start boycotting the notion as to what the society has been given you. So first of all, understanding where things are coming from. Like I said, from a very tender age, you have been made to think that, my worth is my face, is how I look. You need to go away from this mechanism. So awareness need to be spread that no, you're not a part of this. You should stay away from it. Take a step back and realize what is happening. Because the entire society is playing such a game wherein your appearance is your core identity. You need to stay away from it. Second, boycott stuff. It's very simple. For me as a man, I can get ready in 5 minutes and I can come to the podcast and I will be accepted. But if I'll be a woman, it has to be a 30 minutes of struggle for me to be look a certain way, because I know that I cannot be raw in my appearance. So yes, in that sense, yes, I mean, you need to also look into it that, okay, maybe less of a makeup, maybe boycotting certain commercialization that is happening to me. The notion of being an eye candy. I don't even understand it. Even in the West, like, I don't know, just a very basic observation that I have, that when I see the Academy Awards, I see men dressing up in suit, being all gentlemen. But a woman walking in, she has to be an eye candy, always revealing dress, always, have to show a certain kind of a skin type, always have to maintain herself. So if it is happening in that top level where men can wear a suit, they don't have to reveal themselves, their skin and everything, but a woman have to be an eye candy. So how do you do this? You, in each and every sphere of your life, when you are aware, you're always boycotting it. You're always fighting against it. You're not applying, you're being conscious about what's happening. So I'm not going to give so much effort. So I think that is the way out, very simply put.
Yeah, and what a journey that is, right, for women. I mean, this standards of beauty has something that's plagued me internally, personally, myself also, but it's just so perpetuated in our society to do makeup, to look a certain way, to do your hair away, and the social media aspect of it now, right, has like just made it even worse because now you're only seeing the good in other people. You don't get to see their bad days. You don't get to see the struggle that it took them to get to that point. And like you were saying earlier, the makeup industry and the other beauty industries have profited from this. And it's kind of like profiting from people's feelings, right? It's like, oh, if I'm going to get this procedure done, I'm going to feel like I'm going to look so much better, and profiting off of their depressive states at their most vulnerable times. So I think this thing that you said about boycotting, and it would be hard for a woman to achieve the same level of success that she would achieve if she did have the beauty, right? And the other bodily standards that come with it. And so the work is sometimes twice as much as hard without that, as to really making yourself be able to push through that. And I think men also have to kind of play the role in this as well, in which where they need to accept and like all of the things that you were saying with the beauty standards. So what do you think also that men can do as well, and us as parents can really cultivate and bring this type of mental mindset to children growing up now?
I think men should begin unlearning rather than learning. Because whatever they have learned, it's not coming from, let's say, your religious values, if you're a religious person, or any other values that you could hold deeply. It's coming from a pure sense of objectification and commercialization, and you are trapped in it. Because when you're looking, say, for example, when a man and woman mostly come to raise a family, so the interaction between a man and woman should not be limited to key basic certain things, like how Rabia has put it, that a man is looked up as to what he's earning, and a woman is looked up as to how she looks. That comes from unlearning, and unlearning comes from education and awareness, and a lot of conversation that goes around it. I mean, we hardly see such a conversation happening wherein we talk about basic things like where the idea of success comes from. uh, why do I need to dress up in a certain way? Why do we need to act in a certain way? What's the common parameter that we can talk about? So basic things are not being discussed. Perspective needs to be shared, and I think, yeah, that's how I think we can take it forward. As a man, I would say that this entire thing, the objectification of a woman, affects a man too, and affects them very much. They need to see it, because when the objectification of a woman would come in to play a role, then a man would also have to be like a pricey kind of a guy. You need to be at a certain status to achieve a woman of a certain beauty. And imagine that all your life you're trying to earn a money so that you can have a beautiful woman with you, and on your life you're trying to look attractive so that you can be with a rich person, and then you're coming together in a family. Uh, do you not see that this is a problem wherein the marriages are failing, families are failing, because the entire idea of raising a family or meeting your partner is so limited to certain two or three aspects, and I think that affects both of us.
Yes, this conversation can go in so many tangents. Some things that I want to highlight right now is that this is a layered conversation. And one is the grassroots layer that you're talking about. Before anything can be built upon, we need to talk about these behaviors, these ideologies, these societal invisible but damaging behaviors and thoughts, right? So that's that grassroots level. And then I love that you're saying challenge the status quo. Don't just buy into it. Just because it favors what I believe, it must be right, right? Because it favors what it gives me more power, right? And so let me not even touch that, because hey, I'm going to benefit at the end of the day. So that's selfish attitude. But for those people like yourself that you noticed it, and it may have been good for you not to challenge it in some way, right? In a self-serving way, but you did. It could have on one of these layers that we're talking about, and you saw beyond it, that it's not good for my sister. It's not good for me either to buy into this. And so that challenging it, boycotting, then after you challenge it, don't participate in it. Don't feed the beast, right? And then rebelling. I love that rebelling word because that does not mean it has to be aggressive or disrespectful. In that awareness, you can be a rebel with a cause rather than rebelling without a cause. I used to be a rebel without a cause because I was doing all this without knowing the why behind what was causing my mental health wasn't being looked after. I was feeling dismissed. I was feeling scapegoated. I was being gaslighted by the people that I trusted and I believed because, hey, how can they be wrong? I trust them, right? So challenging that takes a lot of courage. And I just want to applaud you for being that part of community that is there for women who are under acid attack, who are victims of domestic violence. And the education piece is so important. So I just wanted to highlight that. One more word to with that challenging and questioning is be curious. Be curious rather than just, accept everything as it is.
That's great, Rob. Yeah. And I also think that once you go down that path of rebelling and really pointing out and being curious and challenging the norms, the doors will open. You will find the people where you do actually feel like you fit in, like we all have. So it's not like there's a misfit. You're just not meant to fit there. You're meant to fit somewhere else because ultimately we all fit, right? Like ultimately we're all the same when you think about it from that aspect. And I wanted to touch upon that a little bit as well, Shakeb, because you speak about religiousness, on how the hypocrisy is there when it comes to religion, and Islam didn't teach us in the Desi culture to objectify women and that the lighter skin is better, or beauty standards. And so how has that played a role in your looking at society and that idea of us being the same, no matter what our face color is?
That's a very interesting question, by the way. Because Rabia said that, at first you are a rebel without a cause. You need to find a cause. What am I? I know this is bad. I know there is a hypocrisy in a society. I know that this, because at an earlier stage of my life, I confused the cultural belief with the religious belief. I thought this cultural thing is a religion and I'm not going to have that. And that's why I became an atheist. But I came back to my religion while trying to understand it, and I saw a huge difference between a cultural and a religious thing, like I was mentioning in the earlier conversation. That rebel which I was, fighting against those traditional norms, those cultural beliefs that we had. For example, the belief that where you say that women ought to look a certain way, and this thing needs to be done. Divorce is such a shame. I mean, you're practically like outcasted. You're a misfit if you're divorced, and that too twice. My goodness, you are a problem, right? Now, initially you will confuse, this is a patriarchal society, this is what religious people are doing, so backward. These Westerners are better, but then you go there and you see there is also a problem, and you're rebelling, and rebelling for what? Then you find a cause. You understand, you come back to religion, you study it, and you see there's a huge difference between the two. For example, in our Islam, mashallah, the companions of the Prophet, they divorced a lot of women divorced them. And there used to be companions lining up for the proposal of marriage. There was no shame when a woman was actually divorcing a man. If you read about the hadiths and everything, these companions of the Prophet would line up to propose a marriage. Even Prophet, for example, he married a lot of divorced women. Lot of divorced women. Right? So he's setting an example. The companions are setting an example. That's a religious belief. The cultural belief, oh, you're a divorced woman. Oh my God, life is gone for you. Or no, divorce is such a shame. No matter how toxic the relationship is, you got to keep that because, ultimately family matters. What will people say? So we think in a religious society in Pakistan or India, we think that we are actually worshipping God. But the reality is we are not worshipping God. We are worshipping people. We are not truly religious. We are actually hypocrites. And that is when you understand your religion. And that is where you see the gap. And when you try to come back and say, hey, listen, this is not religion, this is cultural, you will see the people protecting those cultural beliefs under the disguise of religion and fighting against you. And they will call you that you are not religious and you are an outcast and you don't know about this. And that's why you see why religious society, the problem is coming up. But then, mashallah, we are having people in New Age who are understanding religion, rebelling against religion, who are understanding religion, coming back to the society and giving it back to them and saying, hey, this is what my religion is. And it has always been great and it's very compatible. And this is something which I can offer to the world as a solution, which can save family, which can save individuality, which can even save marriage, and which can lead to liberty. And your cultural belief, your worshipping of the people, which you think is your religion, is not the truth. So that is where this journey takes you eventually.
Amazing, amazing. You said it so beautifully.
That's a mic drop.
Definitely a mic drop. And yeah, there's so much to talk about with hypocrisy, so much to talk about. And it's not just a difference between religion and culture, it's a contradiction. And this is where maybe we need to start questioning is what are the contradictions between what I know about my culture and what I know about my religion, and then learning, right? Learn about our, because like a lot of my upbringing was based on what someone told me about my religion, not my own understanding of my religion. And I'm not a very, dogmatic religious person, to be honest with you, but my faith and my belief in my God, in my Allah, is really strong. And so my conversations with Allah was, show me the truth. I don't want to read it. I want to live it. And I tell you, it's a question that comes with a path that is quite difficult as well, because it makes you challenge yourself and your ideologies. It totally destroys the world that you know, and it's difficult. Like, I mean, let me just say, the path for me was very difficult. But at the same time, it's so rewarding to know that, you talked about the material and the spiritual, the difference and that connection to yourself. I think the way to God, the way to Allah is through the self, like really dismantling the other things that are in the way, that are holding us back from experiencing our emotional responses to our life. And it's always sugarcoating. I think there's a lot of sugarcoating that society does in the name of religion. And that is, oh, let Allah take care of it. Don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Sit put, status quo. Don't rock the boat. Don't challenge anyone because it makes me uncomfortable. You don't do something because it makes me uncomfortable. And the whole thing is, we deny someone's discomfort and abuse for our own comfort and luxury. And that I think is that is so damaging.
I was just going to add that the other thing with that religion coming at you is the aspect of shame. You know how shame is so built into it. Like for me, it was, why are you questioning this? You're just a bad Muslim, like how dare you? How bad of you is it to say this, something like that? This is totally against religion. And I would feel like a bad person. Am I a bad person? Like you question yourself and you feel ashamed to even slowly stop being curious. We get suppressed in that and then stop questioning it. What else can we do? How can we reinvent cultural norms?
I think get this thing when you separate the cultural from religious, and it is also has to come up with the people who are facing those identity crises. So you're born in an Islamic society and Islam was a part of you, and then you like rebelled against it because you saw a problem in that society, and you're like, okay, maybe Islam is the problem. I don't want to revisit Islam. Maybe that's not the truth. I don't even want to talk about it. Let's move forward. And then you have a Western society or maybe other kind of non-religious society where you see other kinds of problem. And then you're like, where is the answer? There's no answer now. The religion is, it's all full of dogmas and, man-made, kind of things, I suppose. And now I've moved to the non-religious society and I see anxiety. I face anxiety. What's the meaning and purpose of life? And there's so much discrimination. I be a communist now and rebel against those bourgeoisies and do something like form an association, or should I just become a hippie and do something else? What is my identity? And you revolve around it, and then for me, for people like us who understand, who is in a quest and who maybe think that maybe the answer is universal, maybe spirituality is a way, maybe God is the way, maybe Islam is a way, and you understand that it's reinventing Islam. Whatever is in your home, you obviously don't want to reinvent it because you think, oh, I mean, it was so easy, it was there in my house, but and these people are following it. You see your grandfather, grandmother, your neighbors, being very religious or keeping beard, and you see problem in them, and you're like, okay, this is Islam, I'm not going to follow it. But what about ourselves that we as an individual, and I see this happening in today's day and age, that people are actually revisiting, reinventing it by just being a child, not having those biasness that you have of religion, just being very neutral, coming back and understanding the religion. I'm talking to the Muslims who are trying to understand Islam just like you have never been introduced to it. And that is where the magic happens when you're talking about it. That is where the magic happened to me, because from an atheist to going and becoming a Muslim truly was an interesting journey. And it happened because I cleared out the biasness that I was having because of the cultural interference. And I think those cultural notion, those cultural norms are actually going against Islam, because it is in the modern day and age is going to separate a lot of individuals, a lot of youth away from Islam. So that is the biggest hurdle. The biggest enemy of Islam or any religious society is not the modernization, I say. The biggest enemy, the first hurdle, is the religious people or the religious society themselves. And there's a prophecy also of the prophet that, the first awakened religious group will be fighting or rebelling against the religious people, not against, you say, we fight against West, we fight against, no, they will be rebelling against their own people. That is one of the prophecies come up. So yeah, I mean, and when you read Quran, for example, you're talking about listening or reasoning in chapter 67 of the Quran. It says that these people will be asked, if only we had been listening or reasoning, we would not be the companions of the blaze. So if only we would have been listening or reasoning. That is something which Quran says. If you open the Quran, the chapter 2, chapter 1 is a preamble, basically, I say. Chapter 2, the first 3 verses, it says this is the book for those who believe in the unseen, who believe that the world out there is something more than that. That opens a door for the people who are explorers, who are inquisitive, those people who are not limited to the reality, they more than what is existing. So Quran is for them. That part, that magic you can only feel when you clear away your biasness and you reinvent religion from a very neutral perspective, is what I'll say to that.
Yeah, for sure. And what you're saying is possibilities are there, but to make them probabilities, we have to start questioning and start connecting and dismantling and just totally saying, I'm going to start fresh. And I think the experts are not the experts because they have taken what they know and they just repeat what they know. They don't add to what they know. And so, tradition is the absence of growth. We just keep doing the
Exactly.
same things over and over again without changing with the times, without changing with the new information, and expecting them to deliver the best results that they once did. And all traditions are great, but they have a lifespan. And so what you're saying is this
Exactly.
reinvention is about creating a lifespan of this way of being more than living and doing, a way of being that is more aligned and in tune with ourselves as a human being, but also not dismissive of other human beings in that journey.
Exactly.
I think that is
Exactly.
definitely a lifelong process. And a message that you may want to leave our audience with, what would that bottom line message for them to ponder on today or after today, what would that be?
Well, first of all, before leaving this message, I mean, what you are doing is amazing. I have seen your, clips from the other podcasts as well, and the kind of conversation that you have. This is the most important thing. So that's the message. I think something on my limited understanding, I truly believe in that in today's day and age, the best service that can somebody can do to their worldview is to explain it in today's context. And I think if somebody is doing that, they're doing the service to Islam or even Hinduism or whatever background that you come from or whatever ideology that you belong to. So that's something. And what I would say, based on where the life has taken me and what I have experienced with my limited understanding, is what I can give the message. Uh, I think the growth, is to let yourself truly grow, never be rigid. And I think, rigidity is something which is always holding us back. My I came from a humble background, and I made it all into the bigger city, and then I became a campaigner. I was also in, did a lot of activities, mashallah. I did it because uh, I wanted to let myself grow. I wanted to explore. I was inquisitive and curious. And then, of course, the challenges come wherein, you're a misfit. Society won't accept you because you're kind of people, they want you to be like yourself. And then there is a challenge wherein you need to shred that away, and you need to grow. You need to go away into the society where you want to belong. And the people will always trying to bring you back. And your inner anxiety will also say, how can I go to this newer world? I mean, where I don't know what will happen to me. This is the known territory of mine. So I need to adjust. And that is where the struggle comes up. You want to go somewhere, but the anxiety is not letting you go there because there is a fear of uncertainty. And you can't even go back to your world because you're a curious or inquisitive fellow. So my message is that take that bold step, go towards that uncharted territory. Don't be afraid of uncertainty, because at the end of the day, we are all humans to humans. We all have that one harsh reality that is awaiting us. Sorry to say that, but death. So everybody is going to go to the same process. So make sure you live your life to the best. Remember the realities of the life, that you live and you die. So go and navigate that uncharted territory, because that is where you came from. You came from the unknown. So you are used to going to the unknown. You are used to it. Allow yourself. So that is what I would leave it with.
Beautiful. And for those that loved your message today, where can they find you on social medias? How can they reach out to you?
Well, I am active on Instagram. I also make some kind of reels. Few of my reels have got a good traction, engagement, and everything. So yeah, I mean, you can reach out to me on Instagram. Very soon, Rabia, what I'm trying to do is that in this summer, I am going to travel to different places in India where the Muslim society lives. You know what's happening in India, how Muslim lives. Nobody gets the picture. So I'm going to travel. Uh, inshallah, in this summer for a month or two, from northern India basically, to all villages, making a vlog and basically showcasing how Muslims live in India, and what's the actual kind of a problem that they are facing, but not really like a journalistic kind of a thing. Just my experiences interacting with them, living in the rural spaces, urban spaces, and showcasing how Indian Muslims are. So if anybody is interested in that in this summer, you catch me up on Instagram. You can give me more insights, and yeah, I mean, we can connect there.
And what is your Instagram handle, just so that everyone knows?
Yeah, it's Shakeb shares, Shakeb, Shakeb, and shares, as in I share stuff. So Shakeb shares, they can find me there. Thank you.
Shakeb, that was really beautiful, all of your messages. Thank you so much for sharing. We have so much we can unpack. It was great. And thank you so much for all the tips and tools. It was great conversation.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. And you guys are doing an amazing job. And I look forward to more such episodes where I can be a viewer as well, and I can listen to amazing conversation. Thank you so much for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. And a new identity is what I heard. Create a new identity. Don't be stuck in the one you have. And so, Sana, it is that time of our episode.
Yep, we're two Desi girls.
Reinventing cultural norms with love.
With love.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Please rate, subscribe, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow the Rabia and Sana Show on social medias.
Remember, you can watch the video version on YouTube, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.
If you want life coaching services, or you are reinventing cultural norms for yourself and think you would be a great guest and want to be on our show, please email contact@therabiaandsanashow.com.
And be sure to check out our next episode. See you next time.
See you next time.